Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for attending the Global Online Safety Conference. We're in year two and back stronger than ever. I have some incredible guests with me, and I wanted to address the topic and go through sort of the guests' takes on these things. But we're going to talk about the safety net, the internet safety net. The thesis of this conversation is who falls through when the online protections don't see you. So, in itself, that's a loaded phrase, right? What does that mean to be seen? What does bias mean? What demographics do we look at? And we have a panel of experts in various areas from around the world that are doing really cool things, and looking at harm in different ways and looking to prevent harm from happening and also reclaim justice in many ways for those who have been harmed. So, what we need to think about really is, we're building these online safety systems um, for the ability to recognize harm, to build a process to prevent it, to mitigate that, and we also have to trust that it will work at the same time. So when we do this, who are we leaving out? That's really the central thing to talk about. Crystal, I'll move to you first. Um, you have created a tool, and I wanted to hear your story about when you were looking for tools to protect your own family. What did you find as you went through that? And what was missing from your perspective?
Yeah, sure, John. And hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Crystal Tristan, founder and CEO of One Haven, a platform kind of focused on helping everyone navigate their safety online. Um, I come from a background of technology adjacent, and for the past several years have become kind of deeply ingrained in the growing risks of children and our seniors online, and honestly, all of us under constant attack. But for me, this came firsthand. I was basically trying to download the top reviewed parental controls to my kid's device. My teenage son needs to be protected from himself and others. And what I found was there was just a huge gap in what they said they could do and what they were actually capable of. And it made me realize, that parents and caregivers out there think that these tools are working because they tout as working and they say that they're doing these things to protect our most vulnerable. But when you actually get in and you do some real high level testing, they just are failing. So I realized, I needed to build something, do something different. So we were building One Haven, and we hope that it enables caregivers and parents to really protect those that are most vulnerable and unprepared.
Thank you so much. Can you give me an example of like one way the current tools on the market are failing people or just not doing what they're saying they're doing?
Yeah, 100%. So child exploitation is up 400%. So that in itself is a pretty good indicator that we know it's not working. Some things you'll see with some of these parental controls or these tools are that they'll say they monitor messaging. That sounds great. Yeah, sign me up for that. But what it actually does is tell you how many they sent or how many they received, which is completely useless. You might get like, oh, 600 messages to your teenager yesterday, and you're no more wiser the risk that they're under or the things that may have happened.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure.
Confidence, how's your internet? Are you good?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Okay, cool. I wanted to know from your perspective, what it looks like where you are with Internet Safe Kids Africa. And what are you seeing that where people are falling through the cracks with with this rise, especially in AI technology, but as safety has been a part of this conversation, and you've been on the ground doing this for years now.
Thank you so much, John. It's good to see you again, and
Too.
um, I'm really blessed to be on this platform again for the second time, and for still a better cause. So I'm Confidence Osein, and I'm the founder of Internet Safe Kids Africa, and basically I call myself a cyber safety educator. I have a tech background and a cyber security background, but over the years, working in the field with young people, one of the things that I discovered, and it's still happening now, is how our Nigerian kids, or should I say, African kids, are very, very immersed in digital environments. A lot of Nigerian kids, a lot of African kids are online without active supervision from their parents and guardians. And why is this? As Africans, we are dealing with a lot when it comes to infrastructure, when it comes to technology, when it comes to even our daily living. So most of the times we have parents who are juggling and hustling to make ends meet for their kids, who don't know what their kids are doing online, but are ready to like spend their money or expose the children to technology without understanding what the kids are doing. So right now, currently, some few days back, someone talked to me about a statement from a 15-year-old girl who said she would rather talk to an AI chatbot than talk to her parents. And we were like, it's not something surprising to us because parents here are dealing with a lot. So most of the times we are trying to like make sure the kids are okay, while the kids are most of the time trying to make sure they are feeling good online with their peers. So we are dealing with kids who are like asking questions, using tech to like find friends, using tech to like express themselves, using tech to find their identity, while parents and adults have no clue of what they are doing. And at the end of the day, we are seeing a series of challenges of young children going into deep, deep, deep problems being online. So there is a disconnect as we speak here. There's a disconnect between children and their parents. And I, as a parent and as an educator, I love to cut the parents' community some slack because it's not easy for them. Even though, yes, they have to be in the lives of their children and their wards, but we do a lot as parents coming from Africa. So there is this huge disconnect. Children are first finding their identity with tools, AI tools. They are taking advices from AI tools. So it's a whole lot. We are dealing with that. And you come to talk of low digital literacy over here. We're also struggling with that because you hear a parent who would say, why should I start learning all these things? Why? I don't need to learn them. My child knows them, or my child's school or teacher knows about this. Let them teach. So children here are like all over the place in digital environment with no supervision, with no active guidance. So that's the situation on ground. And from these spaces, they are forming their identity. From these spaces, they are receiving assurance from tools that don't even understand our cultural context, our unique trauma as as a region. So that's what it is here in Africa and specifically here in Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Confidence. I appreciate that. So I'm seeing a thread a bit. Crystal talked about protections for children that exist and or that fail to exist and that there's a gap in that area. And Confidence is mentioning how children rely on chatbots. And sort of a cultural thing too as well. That the focus for parenting is to make sure your kids are okay. There's a lot of economic hardship and a lot of development happening in Africa that parents are doing the best to navigate what they can. But this a revolution that is moving quickly has got kids, adapting to the internet at higher rates than ever before as Africa's expanded, over the past 10 years with a lot more open internet access. So I want to move it to Etali as well, because one of the areas that you look at things from the policy side. You also look at gender equity that exists in Cameroon as well. So I would love to see your take. Where are things in the tech world from your perspective falling short? And what can we do about that?
Thank you, John. I'm so pleased to be here this evening here in Cameroon. I want to say hello to everyone and to my co-panelists. Yes, I am actually speaking from Cameroon and from the northwest region of Cameroon. I am also the founder and the CEO of the Association for Sustainable Development Livelihoods Initiatives, acronym Sustain Cameroon. We are working at the grassroots levels to be able to close the gaps that are existing, gender gaps, and then issues of exploitation, especially sexual exploitation and child early and forced marriages. And I just want to reflect in the question you said, and I'll say that a lot has been done in the area of promoting gender equality, and one of the strongest trend which we are engaged in is working at a grassroots level where the patriarchy is built, and when you build when the society is built on a fabric, the entrenched patriarchy beliefs has formed the basis for African traditions, especially for the sub-Saharan Africa, and this has always affected a lot of things, especially when it comes to talking about accessing technology, accessing education, access to justice, and all of that. And you need to be able to create a kind of balance. We are doing it in two prongs. We work at the grassroots level to institute the infrastructures that can permit for these vulnerable women and girls to be able to at least develop their resilience, and also to be able to see how they can participate effectively and fairly in the society. And if you look at it in the context where we are living now, there is a lot of exploitation when we come to issues like sexual exploitation. Girls, women, they're highly exposed, and because of this, we try to see how we can empower them at that level so that they can be able to have the opportunity to be able to represent themselves, and to be able to also take informed decisions about things that concern them, and especially the absence of digital technology at the grassroots level. Most of these communities are communities that are like feeder areas, or like hotspots, or like transit communities where they are extracting these people, or where these practices are rife. So we need to be able to see how to create an equilibrium where the people are able to understand the systems that are in place, and also to understand the reporting mechanisms that they can go through. And notwithstanding, we also try to look at how we could create alternatives, because in Africa here, for instance, especially sub-Saharan Africa, there is so much trust in people than in institutions. And, we need to be able to see how we start shifting to see how to build this trust. And that is why we see that sometimes with some programs that we have, there's a program we introduce. We call this program, it's a tool. I call it a tool. It's a program, we call it Agape Teens Movement, where we are identifying these youths and these children within schools, within community institutions, and we empower them to be like frontline responders. They are going to be the ones intercepting, and also uh, being able to follow a clamor for the rights, and also for the protection of these victims. Thank you. I hope you said it was an intro. Let me not talk so much there. Thank you so much. Mm.
No, no, it's great. We're setting the stage here. Appreciate it. Afiz, tell us about the Go Legit initiative. Going into this thread, thank you so much, Etali, for talking about the gender issue. Um, and Afiz, from what I've seen in the work, you help transform people who have been victims of things to become advocates. And I have seen that myself. I run I have a survivor advisory board for my nonprofit to help give opportunities to survivors of who have been victimized. And a lot of times, um, the court systems don't do a really good job at seeking justice, and then these people are often propped up and give a good like UN speech, but their lives are still ruined. They don't have a lot of financial opportunities, and so I'd love to hear about what you're seeing in the safety net for people who have been victimized, and even if you have insights on anything that the other panelists have mentioned from your perspective.
Okay. Thank you, John. My name is Afeez Ogunnupebi. I work with Go Legit Africa. I'm actually here on the panel representing Remy, who is the founder and CEO, who is unable to make it. So, what we've been doing it can be seen from different tranches. We focus on rehabilitation of reformed what's it called offenders in the cyberspace and try to work with them to try and move them away from the crime aspect into using their skills, because obviously for you to operate in that kind of sector, you have a certain amount of skill, and see how they can use their skill in a more efficient way to benefit society, and also a more proactive approach where we are also trying to work with young people around to try and deter them away from the cyber from that kind of crime space. And some of the work we've been doing is to try and enhance some form of grassroots education, going to schools and teaching young people on digital skills that they can use to actually they can monetize to create a very good career path for themselves. Because one of the root causes of people being attracted into that space is usually economic in nature, and also for lack of exposure, for lack of feeling unheard in terms of societies that do not obviously create a space for them where they feel that they can actually amount to anything in the future. And one of the things we've also seen there is mostly because most of the systems or the tools that are online, to create awareness or educate people on create awareness and educate people do not take into consideration, people that are not, if I put it this way, people that are not, do not have the level of accessibility that normal people, quote and unquote, who actually have access to. You also have some victims that are usually like older people, that are not actually taken into consideration in terms of all the safety tools that are being built. We've also seen that what about people that do not have the level of cognitive ability to understand what's going on the internet? What kind of safety measures have been put in place to protect them? Not to say too much, but like for a lack of like an inclusive safety policy that helps to look at how these tools online are actually being built in the first place. I work in cybersecurity. We talked so much about the importance of security being embedded in the design of anything you're building. But then you then start to question in this space whether inclusive safety frameworks or policies are actually in place to be embedded in designs of the tools that are being rolled out online, that then takes into consideration a lot of other people, to do in a more inclusive way, to make sure that not only certain people that have the cognitive ability to understand technology are being protected, and also other disadvantaged people are also being taken into consideration. So without saying too much, that's on a very high level, and we can obviously dive deeper as we go along on this panel. So that's some of the things we've noticed.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. So what I'm hearing too as well is not just the victims, but also the people and who have been victimizing others. And often, research shows really it's an economic situation, right? If there's low-hanging fruit to scam people and take advantage of them, especially if it's in European or US dollars, right? In a country that could be worth a lot. Um, then the incentive is very high and the likelihood of getting caught is kind of low. And this is in the same vein in the US with drug dealing. And if a city or organization or group of people have their basic needs met without the stress, they're not going to commit crimes. So I'd be really interested to learn more, and I'll come to you later about like how you get people to switch over and see the impact that they have and how, what allows them to cross to the other side where they can use their skills for good. So that'd be really interesting. But there was a really cool tie-in I wanted to bring in with Crystal because I know you do scam prevention, and Afiz talked about like the scams that exist. Another demographic that you lightly touched on in your intro was the elderly. And that's something huge that I've seen, all over the globe. But, especially in the US, we have the baby boomer generation. So our birth chart looks like a little bit of babies and then all of a sudden huge elderly population. Globally, that's happening a lot in the Western world. So with AI, being really good at deep fakes and mimicking voices, I would love to get your perspective on what you're seeing in the scam world. It doesn't have to be elderly, but what are you seeing in the scam, you know, area?
Yeah, thanks, John. I wanted to jump in there. I heard Afeez talk about, seniors and how they're being taken also. And I think I started originally as a parental control app selfishly because I had kids at home. But, as I started kind of interviewing folks and doing some real research, like the thing that really surprised me was how invisible our seniors are in digital safety conversations. But yet they're really one of the most targeted populations online. If you think about who has a landline, it's most likely going to be an older population that's sitting at home with not a whole lot to do and likely funds to spare. And so they're falling victim to romance scams that look like, developing a relationship with someone online that they likely never meet or really even never see. And then that relationship becomes manipulative in a way where they begin to really care for these folks. And then, something comes up, this person that's pretending to be in a relationship has some emergency or something where they call to the greater good. And these seniors are shoving hundreds of thousands of dollars of their hard earned over their lifetime funds, somewhere to the tune of like 42 billion a year in the US, I think, just in the US alone. So it's definitely something that we should be paying greater attention to. Crypto scams, WhatsApp relationship manipulation, fake tech support, right? They call a number, and if it's just transposed by one number, oftentimes you get to somewhere you think that you are meant to be, but it's not. Fake banks calling, a lot of fake charity opportunities, if you can imagine. These folks, are at home and trying to do good, and they get someone that says, I've heard a lot about like a police in their local area calling and saying, "Hey, we're raising money for such and such," and they're happy to give that. Animal charity foundations, cross globe foundations that are pretending to be, these scammers are pretending to be. The list goes on and on. And most online safety systems were never designed to detect kind of emotional manipulation or financial grooming. They're just sometimes keywords. And these folks are smart enough to know not to use these particular keywords like wire transfer, so that they're not caught in having these conversations. And so it seems like safety systems need to support, the caregiver ecosystem and not just the device user, but really have things in place that can help to monitor the conversations that are going on, that our seniors, our kids, even us, I've definitely taken a fake tech support and had to think about, whether it was Coinbase calling, if I had been scammed or not, and really take a more holistic approach to try and protect folks out there.
Thank you. That brings me to the point. A former like CIO of the White House, Teresa Payton, I think, she had research to find that the third largest economy in the world is related to cybercrime. And a lot of that, of course, is scams. So it's a huge, huge part of the economy. And this cyber shift that we're having over the past like 5 years has just been exponential. So it's really cool to have people here that have the boots on the ground from their perspective. Confidence, can you share with me a little bit about the work that you're doing at Internet Safe Kids Africa, the preventative measures you have, and then anything that's surprising you or any problems that you have seen as you've been fleshing this out?
Thank you, John. Um, you know what? I would love to do this conversation from the lens of an African, if you permit me. Um, Personally, I believe, looking at the work I do and my team we do here, I have personally come to believe that online safety systems are often designed with good intentions. I heard my other fellow colleagues talking about elderly people's scam. So for me, like I said just now, that these systems are often designed with good intentions. But the issue is that these systems, they fail to see certain communities. They fail to see certain languages and behavior and people. So when we talk of elderly people and the whole scam, it's because there's a fault in these online safety systems. And when these systems fail to see these certain people, certain behavior, certain communities, the people who become vulnerable are these people we are mentioning, children and elderly people or people with low digital literacy, understanding and skill. But you see, for me, it's not just about knowing that a safety net exists online. It's not just about that. The real question I think we should be asking is who, who was never included in the design of the safety net in the first place? When these design systems are being designed, were they considering elderly people? Were they considering women? Were they considering children? Were they considering those who we, we feel they will be the most vulnerable when attacks come? Let's take, for example, like I said, I would want to use Africa, for example. It's not about the harmful content people see online. That's for me, this is my perspective. It's not about the harmful content. For me, it is about that missing unique cultural context, which wasn't considered in the early stage of the design of these systems. This system misses out on our digital culture as a region. And probably when you want to start talking about elderly people or those who are vulnerable, they miss out in including them. They forget that at the end of the day, the people who are most vulnerable are meant to be involved in the design stages of this system. So working over the years, listening to young people, listening to elderly people, listening to those who don't even know how they fell victim in digital spaces, you would see that what exactly is happening is that they have been, I don't know if I should say, intentionally removed from the designs of this system that we are claiming that it's protecting us. How can you protect what you don't see? How can you protect what you don't understand? So I feel, and looking at my work and what we do as an educator, recently we are developing a tool, a low-tech tool for young girls who would help them be able to identify early stage of tech-facilitated gender-based violence. I think this is the strategies people designing all these online safety systems should start looking at. Include those who are most vulnerable. And I trust that when we gather for this kind of conversation, it won't be about complaining about these systems because there is a system in place to help those who most likely might be victims of the system. So basically, include them in the design, include them, carry them along when these systems are being created so as to protect them. What does my elderly grandma or even my elderly mother knows? But she has a phone, she's online, she uses WhatsApp. Anybody could call her and say, oh, your daughter or your granddaughter is dead somewhere. You need to send money for us to bring in something for her. She doesn't know. So at the stage of designing this so-called safety net, let these people be involved by coming to ask them or coming to make a research on them, saying, what might possibly happen to these people, these categories of people, or this community, or probably people speaking some kind of language that the system does not understand. And that is my problem when it comes to most of the systems too. They are all designed to suit the Western world. My people, we have some unique slangs which we speak online that is unique to us, that if we speak and if we use these slangs online and the system does not understand it, how can they be protected from those slangs? if they're harmful slangs. So there's a huge problem. There's a cultural disconnect, language disconnect, unique context. A 15-year-old girl told someone that she would rather talk to an AI chatbot than talk to her parents. God knows what she'll be discussing with her parents with the bot. God knows what she'll be discussing with the bot. You understand? So for me, the real problem is that there are some people who have either been deliberately excluded from the design of that safety. And this is what we should be considering first. Coming back to those people, and who are those people? These people we are reaching out to in schools, in churches, in their homes, wherever. We need to go back to them, get their unique context, understand what they understand. Then with it, we can provide a safety net that would work for them. So with my work and everything I have done over the years, this is what I am seeing. People are either intentionally or, I don't know, non-intentionally excluded from the design of the so-called safety net that we claim we have to protect them. So, I don't know.
Thank
That's
you. I
my,
appreciate I really appreciate that perspective. And I would say both are true. Um, there's an incentive to make money and cut corners and have a data economy that, and most of the data that's been generated has been from the Western world because the computer access was there. And it's, dominated by Silicon Valley industry and such. So, there is a design problem where most of the data is Western centric and you're going to have more you probably will, it's technically not correct, but you will have more perspective on the Western culture and less data is being collected globally, um, just by the nature of how it was built. So that's one problem. But a very simple problem of deliberate, which I agree on, is how character AI was built, from Google DeepMind people that were they left DeepMind, they created character AI. Google provided them funds to get and capture child data at all costs. And last year we had somebody who's Megan, whose son died from the chatbot addiction that convinced him to die by suicide. So that was really rough. We also see this with sextortion. The simple way to get rid of sextortion was just to not have your followers public by default. So people couldn't take a screenshot and send the nudes to everybody's friends. So there's some deliberate things that are happening. There are some financial incentives. There's lack of policy. It's very complicated. And then let alone getting to other parts of the world on top of that. So I agree with you that there's a lot of mess that's happening. And I do think, and the way I've seen it is a both, yes, an incentivizing problem, a deliberate looking away, but also there are technical challenges that are getting rid of bias in an AI system is virtually impossible, right? So, um, what do we do about these things? And so there needs to be technical revolution in how these AI systems are built. But I think the big harm is the philosophy of moving fast and breaking things. So just wanted to frame that from what I've seen from that perspective and kind of give points for people to jump into. Does anybody want to comment on what Confidence said?
Yes, I would like to comment on it, please. Thank you.
Mhm.
I don't want to belabor what she has said, but I just wanted to say that just to add to what she has been saying, the systems or the protection system has been designed in a way that the people who are assessing it are people who can recognize the harms and people who can navigate the process and also people who can trust in the system. What do I also mean? I also mean that in the context of the Western world, for instance, if we have already functional legal systems, we have, well advanced digital economy within those contexts, and it has also created the opportunity for these platforms, for these apps, or for these tech platforms to be developed design following these laws. For instance, you talk about EU laws, you talk about
Mm.
the laws in the United States, for instance. What is functional in the United States cannot be functional for us in Africa. And I'm also trying to echo the fact that we need to be able to have context-specific interventions for African context, because she talked a lot about culture, and this culture is what identifies the African people, and it is also embedded in their ways and the habit, and even in the way of communicating. So if we are doing, if we want to copy and paste, there will be a lot of shortcomings that will be along the way. And that is why we are saying that we need to be able to see how we can be shifting it, because she touched a lot about the grassroots. We're looking about parents at the grassroots level. We're also looking at the traditional custom systems. What is it that is functional in those systems that can really be able to protect and also be able to enforce the rights and the laws of the people, and also to maybe give sanctions. So you see, this is something that we are trying to do, and it also goes back to the fact that we are looking at the economic triggers or the economic incentives for some of these online harms that we see, because some are propagated by the desire to maybe generate revenue by those who are online, and that is why you see that they begin to develop a lot of CSAM materials. You begin to see that they're going to develop, but this context, I used to say it is a kind of context where the perpetrators are highly in our context here. We have perpetrators and also have victims who are really in our context here in Africa. And if people get to learn to get into the platforms on daily basis, and if you are getting into something, you cannot start driving a car. The first day you get into a car, you cannot just master that car. So you must have some errors or some mistakes that you do, or some missteps that can cause you to get into some of those situations. And that is why you see within the African context, we are also trying to develop mechanisms, also coming up with African focus kind of thing. Like I want to say, I also belong to a group to an Africa Online Child Safety Alliance, which is known as ACOSA. ACOSA is it has an office. Our secretary is based in Kenya. This is an African network that wants to maybe to address the issues of exploitation in the African continent, from the north to the south, to the east, to the west, and using the perspectives of the African background. For instance, we are talking about the EU laws, for instance. The African Union is still catching up by developing the EU model laws, you know, and before the domestication of these laws will come into the context of the countries that we have, there must be a good will, there must be a good political will for these laws to be domesticated in a way that can be interpreted by every person that is living within the context, and also to the satisfaction of every person within the context of our continent. So when we start looking at these kind of things, we are trying to see how we can give a face to the challenges, because we are also victims in our context, and also perpetrators. We could also become this without actually understanding what it is, because interpreting some of these things, we don't even have the digital knowledge. Even some of us who even claim to believe that we are able to even use the systems, we cannot really do it in a way that we can be safe online. So we need to be able to get it acculturized, and also to see how we can, contextualize it. So I just wanted to add that to what Confidence was saying, and to say that it is an uphill task, and it is a dire need for us to be able to see how we have to, maybe if they are interfacing, maybe the AU interfacing with the EU, the sub-regional bodies, to be able to see how they can be able to design these things, because these text platforms are already existing, and they sprout out on a daily basis, but we don't know if they actually are within the framework of the safety net or the policies that have been put in place in order to protect the users. I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
I think what we know is that big tech is not out to save the users. Holistically, I'm comfortable saying that on a recorded global line. I think we have so many different things that are happening, right? We need global regulation that says you cannot hunt our children regardless where you are, and we will come find you, and really build like an amazing database of perpetrators. I would love to see us all sharing our data that says, these are the list of perpetrators on insert popular gaming app here, and share those resources amongst the entire world and say, block these folks, find them, get this IP, let's hunt them down and stop them from, perpetrating all over the world. We're all at risk, unfortunately, because as soon as you can access the world can access you. And so I think regulation would be amazing at a global scale. I recognize that's so easy to say, but I think it's so necessary. I think some amazing, probably AI enabled tools to be able to say, hey, when you're in this region, this is how people speak, and this is the language they have to understand. And contextually, this is okay, and this is not okay, almost by region, right? What is okay for my kids to spat off to each other is not for yours, and vice versa. And AI would know that well once we train it to do that kind of logic. So I think, bad actors with AI need to be combat with good actors with AI, and we could build these tools together. And then also what I'm hearing is just awareness, right? So many times I talk to parents that say, kind of crazy things, or even caregivers of their seniors, like, oh, I'm not concerned about my mom. She never answers the phone, or, she knows better, or I'm not worried about my kids because they're boys. There's just this expectation, wrongly, erroneously, that some of these folks are safe when they're not. And then parents think that just because their kids are sitting on a couch that they're safe, when they're not. And so building that awareness at the caregiver level and then all the way down in the schools. And I love what you're doing, um, teaching people that have gone astray how to, re-enable their ability to make money in a legitimate way, and I think that starts really young. You start teaching them really young about how to protect each other and the awareness of the things that are out there. And maybe we start, from the ground up trying to make this better, but it's a huge endeavor.
Thank you. Afeez,
Yeah.
yeah, I just saw you jumping in. Great.
Yeah. So
I also wanted to just whatever you have to say on top of that, I would like for you to kind of give us the perpetrator perspective too.
okay, so what I would like to add, I mean, everyone has spoken very, very well on the need to design safety systems to take into consideration cultural perspective, regional perspective, and all of that. But like everyone also agreed, it's a very, it's a very difficult endeavor to do. But I feel like there are a lot of systems, I mean, there are ways that we do things ordinarily in other industries in the world today that can actually be replicated in this space. I work in compliance a lot, and one of the things I've seen is if a business is going to operate in a particular region, then you have to design your system to comply with the rules and the policies or the frameworks around that region. Now, if we're talking about within the African context, for example, the onus is on the governments in that space to design their policies or their frameworks, insisting that these are safety measures because they are the ones that understand the region better. Now, if any of these online platforms wants to operate within those regions, then you have to then comply. If you're not complying, then there are penalties or maybe a complete shutdown. As recently as maybe last month or January, there was an incident with X, the platform, where someone can ask the AI to the Grok to just take a woman's picture and then tell it to show a naked version of it, and it will comply. But then the UK government obviously sprung up into actions, give them a deadline, and ask them to fix it. You can have those kind of stuff already replicated within the African context. So we can't just expect all these big tech companies to be the ones to care that much. Like Crystal said, they are not there to protect users. They're only there to do their business. But if you don't grab them by the neck and tell them, if you want to do this, then you have to comply, else you're going to be kicked out. Nothing's going to be done. So those are the ways, some of the ways that you can look at also a lot of all these things. Now, from the perpetrator's insight, from some of the works we've done, you talk to a lot of people, within that space that has been committed some form of scams in the past. Like I said, the normal driver is mostly economic in nature. Everybody's looking to survive, right? And where you are then operating in an environment where you do not have any hopes. You go to school, you spend a lot of you struggle to go to school, you graduate, there's no job waiting for you, or you live in a society where culturally celebrates luxury or materialism over than your value system is kind of flawed. Do you understand? It's all about what I have more than the next person. It's just naturally human instinct. It takes a lot of discipline and a lot of a lot of principle-based life way of living for you not to, dodge into that system. And like I said, that we've talked about already, the system is not there to protect the citizens in any way, shape, or form. So when people think that they can do something and get away with it, then most likely they'll continue to do that. And if there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of money to be made in this industry. It's $1 billion industry. Even if you're not even talking about the United States, even within Africa itself, it's billions of dollars worth of money to be made. So why not? Especially if I can do this and get away with it. Now, if you look at the reporting system again, people don't trust the authorities. The authorities themselves are also perpetrators in this crime, right? So if I get caught, I can bribe my way out of the system. Nothing's going to happen. There's no database being shared amongst authorities all over Africa or even in the world, where if I commit a crime somewhere, my name will flag up somewhere else. All I just have to do is a shift location, and then it's business as usual. So there's a lot of incentive from the perpetrator's point of view as to why they would feel that this is the space they would rather operate in, right? So if you've committed a crime before, you have a criminal record in Nigeria, I'm Nigerian, you can all still aspire to be a senator in the future or be a president if you have enough resources. So there's lots of factors in there that kind of like incentivize people to continue to want to operate in that kind of space without feeling any form of remorse, as opposed to wanting to deploy their skills in other more value-based space where they're actually, benefiting, I mean, doing, living within the premise of the law, if that makes sense. So that's where that's one of the things we've noticed from a proposal's point of view. So it's quite difficult to convince these guys that crime doesn't pay if you are living in a society that basically rewards you for committing crime and degenerates you for not committing crime, if that makes sense. So yeah, so that's my perspective.
I don't know if I can chime in something here.
Oh, yes, please do. I just want to give a 10-minute warning. I can't believe it's been 50 minutes, but yeah, we have 10 minutes left. So yes, go for it.
Thank you. I love what Afeez said about reporting, and I wanted to like just chime in something going from the point of view of children. So talking about the whole hole in the safety net when it comes to reporting, and this is why I say some people have been deliberately excluded. When it comes to children, children don't recognize manipulation or grooming. You don't. If you're in the field working with kids, that's one of the first things you know. They do not recognize manipulation or grooming. They feel ashamed to report. They feel ashamed. They feel afraid to report. When they get into trouble, you will see they would never come online to report. And they don't know what reporting tools exist. A child who has been harassed online or a girl child, let me use a girl child, would never in her lifetime come on any platform, even when you tell her, look, this platform, you can report this abuse. Then this fear of being stigmatized, fear of being bullied and everything. So that is another touch area that it's very, very important when it comes to safety net and the whole. One of the biggest problems is that some harms will never and can never enter reporting platforms. And I don't know, this is why there's a lot of work to do involving those who are vulnerable from day one so that we can give them that power, that courage to speak up when it comes to reporting abuse and online harms and bullying they encounter.
Thank you, Confidence. Yeah, I really appreciate that. Crystal, I saw you
Ah,
really
yeah,
agreeing and nodding your head.
my wheels are spinning. I think you're 100% right. All over the world, many people, children, boys also are 90%. I'm making that up, but I feel like it's so high that are not going to ever say that anything has happened to them. My boys literally have been on gaming apps, and I've had to see conversations that I know that they recognize were not okay, but they don't want me to take their games away. So they're not going to come tell me. Seniors, right? They already recognize that their kids are just one mistake away from taking away their livelihood or their decision making. Eventually, maybe rightfully so, but who knows? And so they're also not out there reporting these things that are happening because maybe they feel ashamed or they're embarrassed or they don't want their livelihood or the decision making process to go away for them. They're just not ready. And so I think tools can help with this. Awareness can help with this, that these attacks are happening everywhere, and please bring it to someone's attention, even if not for yourself. What I recognize from a young person now being, my skilled age is that just because, you don't want to save yourself from this thing that you've suffered from, you might save a couple other people that are in line next. And that's huge. And I think people often will want to protect others more than themselves. So just building that awareness around, hey, it's okay if something has happened to you, bring it to someone's attention so we can go make it better. But then tools, right? I think if something like what I hope to build was around when me and my best friends were chatting, and those conversations were happening over text like they would have, now, my parents would have been alerted and made aware, or my friends' parents would have been alerted if I didn't have the confidence to say. The conversation would have been tracked. My AI One Haven tool would have said, hey, parent, there's something to see here. And then that conversation would have had to happen, whether I wanted it or not. And so I think awareness and tools, got to come together.
Yeah, I'm seeing a broad agreement of, well, we can't really leave this up to big tech to do this. And we
True.
can try with policy. Um, but at the same time, we need solutions that people will adopt, and we need awareness to get the grassroots support to make those political changes. So we have 5 minutes left if anybody has some closing remarks that they want to share. Italy?
Can I go first?
Yeah,
Oh,
let me
yes,
just,
please.
okay.
Okay, Etali, go.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say that I want to appreciate the fact that we have, this is just like a teaser. This is just like a teaser. There's much that we could really unfold with this kind of discussions. And there is much that we can also be able to replicate in terms of best practices. When we get to this kind of platforms, it enables us to bring everybody to speed. And at the same time, we can also unfold the same practices or best practices within our context, within our countries, within our regions, and we can be able to get to somewhere. So when we start this kind of discussions, they are like, we already understand that this is what we need to do, and it's helping us to begin to move towards that direction. So I am happy that we have this opportunity to have this discussion, and I hope that the discussion is going to get to it. I mean, we can be able to have several other opportunities to have these discussions and maybe come out with recommendations or solutions that can best fit our context. I think that is what I want to say. Thank you so much. Mhm.
Thank you. Yes, and that's the goal of what we're doing with Shield is to provide these opportunities for people to come together that normally wouldn't have seen each other, and to help facilitate further conversation. So yes, this is the start, but please keep in touch with the panelists afterwards. Confidence.
All right. Thank you, John. Thank you for this platform. Thank you for this conversation. It keeps getting better. I know we've been talking so much over the years, but I know it keeps getting better. So I'm going to round off this session saying, first, online safety systems cannot protect what they cannot see. if we truly want a safety net that truly protects everyone, then people who are most affected by these harms, they must be included in the designing. They must be included in the design. So I'll end with that. Thank you very much.
I know Angelina's smiling in the audience because she's gonna clip that, and that's gonna be like one of the highlight reels right there. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Crystal, Afeez, any closing remarks from your side?
No, I think we touched on it. I think we all collectively globally could be doing better, and I hope we start having it, solution conversations and just start throwing things against the wall and trying to fix it one little bit at a time.
Love it. Thank you.
Yeah, not much from me. I'm probably just repeating the same thing everyone has said. One other thing I would like to bring in is obviously coming up with policies and all that are great. Enforcement is the key factor there, and making sure that the right tools are in place, our support are in place to facilitate the enforcement. Without enforcement, everything is just a charade at the end of the day. So, uh, particularly within the African context, I'm sure if you go into the laws and regulations today, we have these safety things there, like Confidence mentioned, copying and pasting stuff.
Mhm.
But what's the point if you're not enforcing? Enforcement allows you to audit, to test, see what's working, what's not working, and improve on it. So that's one area I would like to touch on as well. So, but I've enjoyed the session. Thank you for giving me the opportunity, and nice to meet all of you.
Yes, you too.
Thank you so much, everybody. I'll see you at the other sessions. Have a good one, and thank you, audience, for tuning in.
Cheers. Bye.
You.
Keep in touch,
Thank
everyone. See you.
you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Yeah.